After years of my dad putting up with his stepmom's poisonous conduct and his entitled wife attacking my child over a wedding argument, I decided to cut off all contact with her. It didn't work out when I tried to publish this on Ida a few days ago using a different account. It doesn't surprise me, considering the trigger warning. My wife and I have come to the conclusion that what we did was correct. Thus, this will be my final effort to share our tale. I made an effort to include more details and tweak the language somewhat. The names are all made up. My 49-year-old stepmother is an aspiring event coordinator. Since she wed my dad, she has volunteered to organize and host all of the family gatherings and holidays. I endured those gatherings in the interest of my dad, even though I despised them as a child due to her domineering nature and her sensitivity to criticism. This, he claims, makes her feel more welcome. In July, my fiancée Jane, 26F, and I will be married. We decided to put the wedding on hold so we could devote more time to our baby when Jane became pregnant a few months after we were engaged in early 2021. Our engagement has been drawn out. Despite our repeated requests that she desist, my stepmother has persisted in interfering with our wedding preparations from the very beginning by, among other things, phoning our planner, complaining, and turning up unannounced to Jane's dress appointments. He wants us to play the fool for her, but she's obviously bitter that she isn't the wedding hostess or that she isn't called mother of the groom on the invites. Jacob, 4 months, is Jane's paternal half-brother, and he joins our infant boy. After his parents passed away a few months into our relationship, she was granted custody of him. Since Jacob was a baby, I have been a part of his life, and I ended up moving in with them during the pandemic. He doesn't address me as dad and instead calls his sister and me op, but we love him just the same. Like a son. However, Jacob is despised by stepmother. After our son was born, her accusations against Jane of baby trapping intensified. Even though my dad gets along great with Jane and loves the kids, we don't leave them with them very frequently since my stepmother makes him refuse to babysit. Because their children are around the same age as ours, Sil and Jane's brother often take turns watching the kids while we're at work. My husband was out of town with his family last Sunday because of our affair. Not only do my mom and sister reside in separate places, but so do Jane's other siblings. We departed after my dad promised to watch the kids at our apartment. When we returned, we heard the kids sobbing, the stepmother yelling, and dad desperately attempting to soothe everyone. Apparently, our stepmother went absolutely bonkers when Jacob informed her that our kid and he would be serving as ring bearers. Because he wasn't a member of her family, she yelled that she would not tolerate it. When he began to weep, she insisted that I include the trigger warning. Even now, he has a split lip. This had never happened to her before. We made it clear right away that she was not welcome at our wedding or in our home. He has made it clear that he would not depart without her, and dad is irate. He has managed to persuade half of his extended relatives to skip the wedding by playing down stepmother's role. This even includes my stepbrother, who, despite my best efforts to persuade him otherwise, always sides with his mom. Jane and I are standing firm, but some of my relatives who have already decided not to go are pleading with us to change our minds. The majority of Jane's relatives support our position. However, one aunt has voiced concern that Jane's stepmother may be behaving out of a lack of acceptance from my side of the family. I'm sick and tired of my family supporting her. I would be more than happy to go see if it meant keeping my family safe, even though I adore my dad, and would want for him to attend my wedding. We did press charges. I believe I erased the part mentioning it by accident. The next day, we brought Jacob to the pediatrician and collected all of the evidence we could find. Fortunately, we also have nanny cam footage in addition to the facial photos of Jacob. It was reasonable for some readers to infer that my SM wasn't welcomed to our house, but my dad hasn't actually left her behind for a long time, so we were cautious. Never in a million years did we think she'd do something so terrible with the kids, but now we know better. There is evidence of her shouting and Jacob sobbing before and after the occurrence, but the physical attack itself was not captured on camera. Her criminal record now includes a child abuse accusation. Her actions would not be tolerated by us. Edit 2. I have a lot of other information to contribute. I'll do my best to answer some of the comments. I was surprised by how many there have been. For the time being, though, I will just say that Jacob is doing okay. The next day, the child went to see the pediatrician. He was already seeing a therapist, but Jane, who was deeply affected by the deaths of her father and stepmother, is determined to keep going to therapy for fear that her grief may affect him. Also, we've been more generous with our hugs and attention than normal. While he is still agitated, he is improving rapidly. Stepmother was expelled from my wedding, according to the latest update. It means a lot to me that you all read and commented on my last post. Knowing that people care helps get through a bad week. I will do my best to respond to some of the comments in this update, even if I haven't had time to do so for all of them. The length of this might increase. We're going on a trip to North Carolina with Jane, my dad, and SM, to begin with. Neither of them has actually communicated with us after the event, and I have no intention of initiating contact. My younger sister has been our go-between for all of our communications. She's totally on our side, but she's going to keep her distance for now. Jane's approach of interacting with those she cares about is the one I've chosen to follow. Let go of grudges, but keep in mind that nobody ever really forgot. Basically, we're prepared to forgive, however reluctantly, Dad or SM if they ever genuinely repent and comprehend their mistake. However, the harm they inflicted upon our family will never be disregarded or forgotten by them. Even when we forgive them, they will still not be permitted around our baby Jacob or any future children we may have. Regarding my extended family, I've seen that many people have suggested that I share images of Jacob's face and the nanny cam footage. Given that nothing posted online ever really disappears, I still wouldn't feel comfortable exposing my wounded preschooler in such a way, even if I were a social media addict. Unless absolutely essential, I also choose not to share the photos with my relatives. My dad is greatly loved by my family, but I think it's important to note that most of them dislike SM. My stepbrother was born out of one of my mother's 2 unsuccessful marriages. He betrayed his then-girlfriend in order to spend time with her. From the get-go, my family despised SM and adored that girlfriend. From the start, she has been overbearing and manipulative, and she has also done all in her power to become the family matriarch. She enjoyed the extra attention and praise that came with taking charge of preparing every family function. As a kid, I despised these celebrations because my mom always managed to turn them into an opportunity to brag about herself, even during special occasions like Christmas and my sister's and my own birthdays. No one in the family ever really warmed up to her, but they were neutral anyway. Jacob presented a unique challenge. By the time COVID limitations were relaxed, he was 2 years old, and most of my family had yet to see him. Since there were no other young children in the household, everyone began gushing over him because he is a brilliant and lovely boy. Although I cannot verify it, my suspicion is that SM's resentment of Jane and Jacob stems from her frustration that my family welcomed them more readily than she did. Aside from the fact that she wasn't the wedding planner, she was irate because she would have no role in the bridal party. In an effort to have her officiate, she exerted some pressure on us. One of Jane's closest friends was offered the role a year ago. However, my stepbrother was not interested and had already found my best friend. We had already promised Jane's 3-year-old niece that she would be our flower girl, and her sister's daughter, who is 15 years old and doesn't know who we are, is also not interested. Her father has passed away. Therefore, she also sought to get us to have my dad be the best man to accompany Jane on her wedding day. However, her eldest brother, the Andrew I described in the first paragraph, had already been drafted. SM expressed her disappointment that my family wasn't just as engaged with the wedding as Jane's, and she continued to say that if we placed her in control, that wouldn't happen. Having said that, if it is indeed petty envy, there is no justification for being so horrible to a youngster. My sister has been informing me about my father's activities because I haven't had any communication with him. From what I gathered from her, the version of events that my dad and SM shared with our extended family entirely downplays Jacob's injuries and the allegations of abuse. It seems like Jane and I became mad at SM and wanted to get even with my dad, so we blacklisted them. Most people already loathed SM, so it was easy to explain what occurred that night. Plus, the majority of my intended wedding guests have apologized and are now berating my dad. Nobody is welcome in our house anymore, including those who didn't trust us or thought we responded too strongly. I am not shocked because most of them are from my dad's generation. I am relieved that I do not require their presence in my life after discovering that they are so prejudiced that they would shield a lady they despise from consequences after she injured a kid, all in order to appease my dad. Stepbrother refuses to acknowledge reality. Even though we have ample proof that his mother might harm a kid, he still refuses to believe it. Even if I love my mom very much, I still wouldn't forgive his lack of awareness, even though I do understand. He has also been blacklisted. I don't regret anything, even though it stinks because we were close when we were kids. In addition to Jacob, Jane has 3 other siblings: an older brother named Andrew, a twin brother, and a younger sister. I feel a stronger bond with them than I ever did with him. Regarding Jane's relatives, they are all very sympathetic and enraged by what transpired. Jane's family has been in constant contact to check on Jacob since she gained custody of him, treating him as their own. After cutting costs by not inviting everyone, we have chosen to give some of the money to Jane's cousin. She is unable to attend the wedding in person due to her foreign residence. Therefore, we are covering the cost of her plane ticket. Jacob has made tremendous progress and is essentially acting like the carefree kid he always was. The lip break was not deep. The wound is taking its time to heal, but sutures weren't necessary. Not long ago, we had a private conversation with him in which we informed him that my stepmonster and dad would no longer be there. Though he knew my dad and SM were inseparable, he still had a soft spot for my dad. We're trying our best to reassure him that he's secure, but his fear of her is evident. Jane and I have told him that no matter what happens, he will always be loved and considered family. I'm not overly concerned about dad or SM attempting to attend the wedding, but we have informed the venue and provided them with images in case they make any attempts. It is better to err on the side of caution than when things go wrong. The fact that SM contradicts herself by claiming Jacob isn't family was pointed out by several. The reasons why are clear, and I concur. Because she doesn't feel welcome by my family, she uses it as an excuse for almost everything she does. Whenever my dad brings up her ambitions, I feel obligated to join in since that's what my mom has always done. Even while I will always love my dad, I have come to terms with the fact that spending time with him is no longer good or safe for my family because of the way he keeps making excuses for her without comprehending this is essentially a case of the pot calling the kettle black. Except that Jacob is really family. Even though it's painful to think my kid will grow up without his sole living biological grandfather, he is fortunate to have 2 amazing step-grandpas to help ease the pain. At this point in time, I am unhappy yet content with the outcome. My life is not something I like bemoaning. It's a jumble, yet it's lovely. My fiancé, my children, and my work are all people that I love very much. Thank you. I will not allow anyone to derail that. In response to those who took offense to my censoring, Jane advised that I tone down the language when my attempts to post on Ida were unsuccessful. I may have gone a touch overboard because I am still getting the hang of Reddit. Once again, I am deeply grateful for all the love and support you have shown me, and I hope this is my final update on the topic. Sending best wishes to everyone. First update. SM, my loved ones, and my children. It's likely that I will disappoint many people when I begin. SM is probably going to get a smack on the wrist, and we're starting to accept that. Jane and I are meeting with our lawyer to plan our future steps, but we have no idea what to do. We're attempting to avoid more premature optimism since, anyhow, it's too soon to know. Nonetheless, I'm happy to report that proceedings to get a restraining order against SM have begun. Currently, we will concentrate on the evidence that was collected 1 week after the event, which includes the nanny cam footage and images of Jacob. I still haven't had a conversation with my dad. Despite her continued involvement with LC, my sister is definitely contemplating ending their relationship. My father attempts to inquire about me and whether I've gotten a handle on things by contacting my sister, who is the only one on my side who continues to communicate with him. She claims that he finds it frustrating since half of his relatives avoid him, but he remains oblivious to the reasons behind their rejection. She claims she will quit when it seems right, but I told her she doesn't have to keep acting as a go-between for our father and me. Something I never asked her to do. And it's obviously wearing her down. Regardless, the fact that SM assaulted Jacob is without dispute. As soon as we arrived home, Jacob said it, and my father later verified it in an unsuccessful effort to justify her actions. He was quite forthright with us about it. That, along with the fact that he provided Jacob with an ice bag, is the one redeeming quality I can see in his behavior. It went undenied since SM was too busy yelling at Jacob for being a brat. An invisible cookie is yours for guessing that SM is younger than my dad. Furthermore, she is 5 years younger than his ex-girlfriend. Around the time I was 15, they started dating. Her stepbrother is just a month older than me. She gave birth to him when she was 21 years old and wed his father a year after that. She will reach 50 later this year. Our 2 children are thriving. Whenever he finds himself with nothing better to do, Jacob once again takes to jogging around the house dressed as Superman. After he had a couple of bad dreams last week, we had to ask him to sleep on our bed twice. He continues to attend his counselor, and we avoid talking about my father when he is present. Jacob is attempting to teach our 14-month-old son to pronounce his name, and he has already picked up 2 new words: hi and bye. Later this month, Jane's sister, who is celebrating her 21st birthday after moving away for college, will be visiting for a few days. Jane is looking forward to getting tipsy with her, and I can't say I blame her. Jacob is, too. Our hope is that being in her company will lift our spirits. Neither Jane nor I is doing very well. Although she is often reserved, she sobbed herself to sleep nearly every night for the week after it happened. I feel responsible for her plight, and it hurts my heart to watch her in that state. Some part of me is attempting to justify SM's actions by saying I had no idea they would, but it doesn't make a difference. Despite my knowledge that she would likely accompany my father, I nevertheless let him be around my children unattended. To this day, I still can't believe I did this, and the shame I feel is beyond anything I've ever experienced. Jane has been making progress recently and is attempting to get me to visit a therapist. It seems like a decent time to do it now, as I've never really done it before, apart from seeing a psychiatrist when I was younger. I was taken aback by the number of texts I received this week urging me to forgive my father and SM and to re-invite them to the wedding. I don't see that happening. The truth is that I will never forgive SM. I can never comprehend or forgive her for what she did, even though my dad has now become a tremendous maybe. Additionally, we will not be delaying the wedding, even if it is now the farthest thing from our minds. Unfortunately, our visitors are only available on the day we had already decided upon, so we had to stick with it. We have passwords for all of our vendors and made it very clear that they are forbidden to speak with anybody other than us. I do have relatives attending the wedding, but Jane's family is larger and more well-knit, so they are taking a more active role than mine. In addition to my mom, 2 of my cousins will be going down the aisle as groomsmen, and my sister will be serving as a bridesmaid. The depth of my affection for Jane has been amplified by sharing this journey with her. Without her, I don't know how I would have ever had a family. She is the best partner anybody could ask for. Thank goodness this didn't drive a wedge between us. Unless anything very noteworthy occurs, I will likely refrain from providing any more updates until after the wedding. At the same time, my warmest regards to everyone. After SM assaulted my child, I finally met my dad and her for the first time. Update 2. I was going to wait until the wedding to provide another update, but then something really big happened. Lucky for us, we managed to secure the row. One unfortunate aspect of the court hearing was that Jane and I were required to meet with both SM and my father. We hadn't seen them in over a month after we booted them out of our house, so we weren't exactly looking forward to seeing them again. So that Jacob wouldn't have to see the kids, we left them with Sil and Jane's brother. I was surprised by how quickly the hearing progressed. Give credit where credit is due. My dad was obviously astute enough to know they weren't going to win this. Plenty of proof pointed against them. My sister had collected all of the texts and emails that SM had written to her and the family regarding what had transpired, in addition to the nanny cam footage, photographs of Jacob, and his medical records. There were also a lot of phone calls, which SM despises. They skipped out on hiring a counsel altogether for the hearing. A restraining order was issued against SM by the court. She is no longer permitted to be within 500 feet of our property or ourselves. Replacing my phone number is on my list of things to do this week, along with replacing all of our locks. Leaving the courthouse was the first time I felt truly protected throughout this entire process. It was at the automobile when Jane's happiness nearly brought tears to her eyes. To celebrate with Andrew and his family, we took the kids to McDonald's. My father contacted me a few hours later, sending best wishes to everyone. Not apply to him. he is free to continue with that. As the kids and Jane were already in bed, I decided to answer. I decided to give him one final opportunity because I didn't anticipate him suddenly changing his mind and apologizing. I advised him to cut to the chase when he attempted to initiate some uncomfortable small conversation. Concerned about the order's need, he sought my opinion. I made it quite plain that SM would never again be allowed around Jane or my children and expressed my relief that I hadn't taken the time to write it down. It was easy to dismiss all of his justifications for SM, but she only struck him once. Yes, and I'm satisfied with it. Gran is essential to the children. They call her mom, not grandmother. She's my wife. She deserves your respect. Then she pounced on Jacob. My family and my home were the objects of her contempt. Having respect for her is the last thing I owe her. Next, he launched into a eulogy for my sister and me, SM, and all the ways she had improved our lives since she became a part of ours. I responded by making a list of every instance where she lied, crossed a boundary, or acted irrationally against me, my family, or my sister. My life as an adult and my adolescence were both brought up. Attempts to derail our wedding plans, our son's birth, Jane's baby shower, my sister's college graduation, her fixation on the concept of an ideal family, and her abhorrent treatment of Jacob are just a few examples. I also made sure to tell her about the time she went through my sister's and my childhood belongings. This continued up until my sister left their home 3 months ago, but it's little in the grand scheme of things. Case in point, while my sister was out of the house, she read my sister's planner and learned about Jane's bridal dress appointments. The recollections I shared are lengthy and difficult to put into words, but they did solidify my belief that SM holds no significance for me. I interrupted him just as he was about to employ the old she doesn't feel included line of reasoning. The fact that he might have saved his grandkids from harm by not marrying his monster of a wife is enough to make me want to cut ties with him, as I mentioned before. I ended the call without bidding farewell. She informed him that she was also traveling to North Carolina with him, according to my sister, who told me he phoned her afterwards. Both of us are coming to terms with the fact that our father isn't going to change. While it's unfortunate, he has clearly stated his priorities, and they don't include his children and grandchildren. So far, that's all. Now that I'm thinking about them again, I might tell my dad some of the things I brought up, but it will be some time. Up until then, my warmest regards to everyone. Third update. Stepmonster attempted to seize control of our baby shower. I had planned to write a post detailing the events leading up to my confrontation with my beautiful SM and subsequent trip to NC with my dad, as I indicated in my previous post. Despite the abundance of interesting topics, I will begin by discussing one of my sister's favorites. The names are all made up. In August of 2021, my fiancée Jane and I informed our close relatives of her pregnancy, which she discovered in June of that year. For a while, SM paid no attention to our newborn. The woman's response to our pregnancy announcement was to question Jane's certainty, an action for which my dad scolded her, and she hardly appeared to register that we were pregnant. I suppose I shouldn't have anticipated much from her. Her focus instead shifted to my stepbrother, who was engaged and about to have a gorgeous grandchild of his own. Not a single gripe. We could have avoided saying anything at all by just not wanting her to participate. It took a lot of work to plan our baby shower. I was going to be working alongside Jane until the holidays. We settled on early January as the optimal time frame because the deadline was in February 2022. My sister Laura. I just remembered I never gave her a name. And Jane's closest friend Nina were the two individuals we recruited to help with the planning. Jane and I tend to be more relaxed types. Since we were saving up for the wedding and the arrival of our kid, we opted against throwing a lavish celebration. We made the decision to have a co-ed shower early on. We decided on a guest list of 25 adults and around 12 children, and it would have to take place inside in January. Our brainstorming session resulted in a pizza party. Every week since I moved here, my Andrew/surrogate son Jacob, Jane, and I have prepared fresh pizza. We thought it would be a wonderful idea to include this tradition in the shower. Nina located a location that had a pizza oven, and Laura thought of ways to use traditional baby shower elements in the design. The plans that came out of it were fantastic. Help the youngsters express their individuality by crafting their own pizzas, non-alcoholic beverages, and basic bodysuits. Finding pizza-shaped candies, Nina and Laura combined baby and pizza-themed decor. It was surprisingly well executed, considering how chaotic it seemed, but we really adored it. Midway through November, most of the preparation was complete. Yes, my stepbrother's fiancé broke off their engagement later that month and went back to her ex. After being together for 4 years, it came as a shock and caused him much emotional distress. Devastated was he. It took longer than expected for SM to see the grandchildren she had hoped for. Since she no longer had her son's milestones to worry about, she shifted her focus to me. Out of nowhere, SM transformed from distant relative to enthusiastic soon-to-be grandma. Facebook postings, tacky advertisements for Nana teas, and everything in between. We weren't concerned about it at first since we were preoccupied with wrapping up work and preparing for the holidays. However, she quickly began to nag us about organizing the baby shower and the gender reveal. No gender reveal party was ever considered. We don't like them, and we don't mean that to anyone who does. We also planned to wait until the baby was born before finding out the gender. We declined SM's Christmas gift request that we find out and inform her. The baby shower was also turned down by us. My father was informed by her, and he persuaded Laura to include SM in the planning process. She didn't have many options as she was still residing with him at the time. Together, Nina and SM had coffee when she phoned. Even though I wasn't there at the meeting, Laura informed me of its outcomes afterwards. They didn't even get a chance to announce their ideas before SM began describing hers. The words "oh, baby" were among the contents of an unusually thick binder that Laura claims she removed. She quickly retrieved the shower part from her backpack and placed it on the cover, surrounded by colorful tabs and fabric bits protruding. It stood out from the remainder of the binder despite its relative shortness. It was all in an effort to detail her sole baby shower endeavor. I received images from Laura, and no way. She deserves credit for throwing the most photogenic baby shower ever. Having said that, it was also plainly overpriced and scarcely useful. Oversized teddy bears, balloons, enormous letter blocks, and signs that made me gag were all over the place. Jane couldn't eat most of the sophisticated cuisine options proposed by SM since they included soft cheeses, and the seats were too uncomfortable. 3 distinct tones of pink were used as the color palette, with touches of gold. A pink baby shower that made an effort to be different would be great with us. It appeared as though Barbie had thrown up all over Hello Kitty's birthday bash in the photograph shared by SM. Even though Nina kept bringing up the fact that we didn't know the gender, SM insisted that all she knew was that it was a girl. Well, I'll give you a hint. It wasn't. SM also desired an adult-only, child-free celebration complete with posh caterers and libations. No one was interested in trying out the party activities she had planned, and neither Jane's parents nor mine were on the guest recommendation list that she had made out with some of her closest friends. The one thing on which everyone could almost agree was to have the celebration inside. Until she finished, Laura and Nina couldn't share their ideas. When they were able to, they let SM know that they had already decided on the pizza theme, but they could work around some of SM's suggestions. Even though the shower was still a month away, Laura said it was thoughtful of them to offer because we had already approved their plans, and she tried to object. I simply reiterated what they said, even if SM tried to persuade them by calling me. My dad had no more say in the matter after learning he couldn't attend the shower. When the holidays rolled around, nobody wanted to talk about it anymore. It seems like SM was fine with having a pizza party. Nina was able to incorporate some of the pink elements she had requested into the blue design, and she even included one of the large teddy bears. Now we're 1 week out from the big day. As of this writing, Jane was over 8 months along with her pregnancy. The event was about set to go. All attendees had RSVP, and everything had been purchased. With the shower scheduled to begin at 7 p.m., SM volunteered to arrive at the location earlier in order to make everything ready. Laura consented, mostly because she was aware that SM would be dissatisfied if she had no say in the matter, and the location even allowed them to drop off their decorations prior to the celebration. At 6 o'clock, Jane and I agreed to meet there. Venue representatives contacted Nina 2 days prior to the shower. According to what they informed her, SM sent off several big, heavy boxes containing what she described as a little surprise for us. She had already let them know that she intended to arrive at 3:30 p.m. to begin the setup. Since SM nearly had a tantrum when informed that the venue could only be reserved after 4 p.m., they were contacted to emphasize this point. She phoned Laura to see whether they had left anything with SM because all of the furnishings were still at Nina's apartment. Luckily, my sister is well versed in all this nonsense, so the next day she took a car to the site and inquired about SM's boxes. Even though she was unsurprised by the contents, she was stunned by SM's arrogance. She informed me. Pretty, frilly pink decorations adorned every one of the boxes. It seems like SM had shown Laura and Nina some of these things before. Everything from the signage to the balloons to the tablecloths. For the baby shower that SM had planned, Laura learned that SM wanted to arrive earlier so that she could set everything up and basically have us all join her in her Barbie hell party. In order to find out what to do, she contacted Nina. It was practically certain that SM would have her way since neither of them could come at 4 p.m. They threw everything away because that was the most obvious answer. Unfortunately, Laura's suggestion was superior. They contacted Jane and me that night and said, "Hey, want to wreck a party in 2 hours?" When Laura arrived home, she lied to SM and asked her to a salon, saying she had coupons. After SM finished planning the baby shower, they intended to go immediately after she gave her approval. The following day, around 4 p.m., SM arrived at the location. I must confess, the woman is lightning fast. She finished putting everything up by 5 and hurried out to meet Laura at the salon. Upon their reunion, Laura informed Nina via text message that everything was clear. Afterwards, Nina, Jane, and I headed to the location. As expected, SM had her entourage ready. I won't go into detail since I want to keep this brief, but I will say that it was so pink that Jane felt sick to her stomach. Laura spent the next 2 hours diverting SM's attention at the salon while the three of us hurriedly removed all of SM's decorations and set up the pizza party supplies. We arranged the tables, set up the games, and returned all of the pink items to SM's containers. I had a blast doing that. Just minutes before the shower was about to begin, we finished. We had a few people come before SM, so we didn't see each other very much over the night. According to what Laura informed me, SM was taken aback when they arrived and attempted to comprehend the fate of her pink decorations. As my sister proceeded to assist Jacob with personalizing a bodysuit, she only grinned and said something lovely in her ear. The baby shower exceeded our wildest expectations. Everyone was having a good time, including our friends, and we ate a lot of pizza. Therefore, it was of little consequence to me that SM sulked in the corner during the whole celebration. Nina did see that she was attempting to decorate the cupcakes with small pink bows, but she promptly stopped her. It is entirely due to Laura and Nina that the situation was saved. Shortly thereafter, SM lost interest in our kid. She stopped showing up to the hospital to visit us after he was born, stopped wearing her Nana shirts, and didn't accept the fact that he was a boy until we met him a few weeks later. She was a loose grandma until we got to North Carolina. I am really thankful that my son will never meet her. Edit. Everyone could only attend at 7 p.m. Therefore, that's when the baby shower was scheduled. The location was part of it as well, as we needed time to put it up before our morning booking. Everybody else present was at least 9 years old, except for little Jacob. Also, the majority of the parents departed really quickly. Not everyone on the guest list could make it, even though we were ready for everyone, and it wasn't child-free. Update 4. Stepmonster has been removed, and it appears to be permanent. Last Saturday, after being engaged for more than 2 years, Jane and I finally tied the knot. The practice of referring to one another as husband and wife is new to us, but we're working on it. I hope so. It was a fantastic wedding. We finally got to meet one another's extended families. The kids had a blast, and I was practically sick from dancing the day after. As he and my son made their way down the aisle, Jacob embraced his role as ring bearer with great seriousness. There was no deviation from the plan other than my aunt becoming shit-faced and being released on a wheelchair, which I had anticipated beforehand. 4 months have passed since we received the complaint against SM. I really prefer the relative calm that has prevailed. Aside from total silence, though, our wishes aren't often granted. Following our argument, I had no concerns regarding SM's attendance at the wedding. She has no right to be near us. We made it plain that we would contact the authorities immediately if she attempted to do so. Despite this, my friends insisted that I take precautions, and I did so for the most part. I had no regrets about the investment in security since, while SM did not show up, I firmly feel that it is money well spent. On our respective birthdays, my stepbrother and I sent each other birthday wishes. On Jane's, he texted in June. Throughout these months, it has been our sole point of communication. He is aware that he can still apologize if he wants to. My dad has stopped attempting to contact me. From April onwards, we remained silent. He persists in attempting to engage my sister in conversation, but she continues to disregard him. They got into a heated argument concerning SM's treatment of us throughout the years a few days after she went NC with him. My father sided with SM on nearly every issue, and there were insults and painful topics brought up. Then, my sister called me, sobbing. I was about to call him and be really angry with him, but she warned me against it. Currently, she is doing okay. Although she hasn't blocked him, she also ignores his calls and texts. 3 at most. A feeble apology, a May birthday greeting, and a lengthy tirade following our failure to wish him a happy Father's Day are all she has received thus far. Indeed, we may disagree, but we can't deny that he is our father. I agree with him. No matter how much I adore him, I just can't be in his presence anymore. Although I have shut the door, I will not lock it at this time. If he wants his family back, he knows what to do. While I highly doubt he would, I am willing to explore opening the door slightly if there is even a remote possibility that he may. My wife has proposed this. Maybe it's crucial to maintain that optimism, even if I'm far less hopeful than she is. Still, she hasn't let him off the hook. It was expected that this tragedy would shake Jane, as she has always been quite protective of Jacob. When I informed her of that, she proceeded to call me a moron, which made me nervous that she would hold me responsible. I had no idea that therapy would assist so much after a few months of going. Thanks for letting me vent. I've come to terms with the fact that SM's treatment of me as a child was far more damaging than I had previously believed. I am very thrilled right now. The family of my dreams has finally come true, and I was married to the most incredible woman in the world. Although I know that no one is flawless, I never imagined that life would be this wonderful for me. I intend to stay. Reddit has been more than I had anticipated, but I can finally sleep now, so I guess this will be my final entry on this. For the help and guidance you've given me over the past few months, I am very grateful. The assistance I received from you all was beyond my wildest dreams, and words cannot express how much it meant to me. I really appreciate it. I apologize for the hasty update. My stepbrother phoned me earlier today. I won't bother writing another post because I'll simply include it here. He apparently wants to meet up with SM after they had an argument. Assuming it was a one-on-one situation, I was fine with it. Wednesday is going to be our coffee date. Whatever happens, I hope he knows how and why he disappointed us. Otherwise, an apology won't be enough. The meetup has been postponed. I figured I didn't want to spend the whole vacation dwelling on my talk with SB, regardless of its conclusion, since Janewood and I are departing for our honeymoon on Friday. Once I return, we will have a conversation since he grasped it. Last but not least, stepbrother and stepmonster. Hello everyone. Work-related issues have kept me away from Reddit for the past few months. However, I would want to provide you with a little update regarding my stepbrother, as many people have been contacting me about him. Due to my recent exhaustion and hectic schedule, I may omit certain information. Everything is fair game for questioning. August was when I had my first coffee date with my stepbrother. It was revealed that he and SM had a quarrel. She had lied to him before, accusing Jacob of picking on my kid and bad-mouthing Jane, among other things. Nevertheless, he was successful in getting her to tell him the truth this time. The dynamic between my stepbrother and his mom began to shift. He came to the realization that I wasn't embellishing the truth regarding her treatment of Jacob after discussing it with his therapist, friends, and the way she had brought him up. Since he didn't want to interrupt Jane and me during the wedding in June, he never got around to talking to me. The past 4 months have been dedicated to mending fences between my stepbrother and me. We've started getting together for lunch or coffee to talk about his mom and how she affected my family. In October, Jane began spending more time with us, and only 2 weeks ago, the kids had their first encounter with him again. Despite the initial awkwardness, we're now on excellent terms. Additionally, he is mending fences with my sister. Beginning in early November, he severed all ties with SM. Jane and the children are thriving. Our little one will be 2 years old in early February. Holy crap. And Jacob turned 5 in September. While my stepbrother is with his fiancée, Jane and I will be spending the holidays in Brazil with her family. Everything is perfect. Nothing more. For the time being, I will sign off. I will inform you if anything occurs. Wishing everyone a great Christmas season. Best wishes to all of you.